Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are checking out a mall that's a little more near and dear to my heart, as this is actually one of my local malls and a mall I frequent very often. This is the Great Northern Mall in North Olmsted, Ohio. This is one of Cleveland's lively malls, and today it currently sits with a bit of an uncertain future, as a vacancy rot has recently began to form throughout the mall. However, after seeing so much change happen at this mall over the past 5 years, I think this mall has a chance to bounce back and continue to remain successful. So, let's take a walk through the Great Northern Mall and see what it holds in store for us during this visit in June 2024, as well as some more updated footage that you will see towards the end of this video from both January and March of 2025. History of Great Northern would begin well before the mall was even built. Great Northern would originally begin life as a small shopping center in the 1950s. Developed by Saul Biskind on what was a field of strawberries, Great Northern Shopping Center would open in 1958 with a Sears, JCPenney, Woolworths, and a Pick and Pay grocery store, along with several other shops. The shopping center would do so well that in May 1965, a standalone May Company Cleveland store would be built east of the existing shopping center. By this point, indoor malls were becoming the new thing, and as a result, the Biskind family wanted to develop a new mall onto the existing May Company store, and in the 1970s, that vision would become a reality. In the early 1970s, plans would begin circling around for a new enclosed shopping mall to be built onto the east end of the existing three-story May Company department store. It would also feature new, larger two-story Sears and JCPenney stores, whom would relocate from their existing stores they had within the shopping center, along with several other shops. Construction would take place throughout the early to mid-1970s, being developed in a joint venture between Saul Biskind and Saul and Sidney Scher. It would be designed by Cleveland-based Kiva J. Kechts Architects and the Andrew J. Burren firm, and after all the construction was completed, Great Northern Mall would officially open its doors for the first time on July 28, 1976 to great fanfare. May Company and Sears would join the mall on opening day, with JCPenney opening a little later on November 3rd that year. Early tenants of Great Northern Mall would include KB Toys, Small Stuff, Gordon's Jewelers, Recordland, Walden Books, Hickory Farms of Ohio, The Limited, and several others. It would also feature the Commons Restaurants, a 14-bay food court which would feature names such as Capri Pizza, Cut the Mustard, Maxie's Deli, and Hamilton Burgers, just to name a few. Great Northern Mall would continue to see success throughout the late 1970s. Even though it would have to face competition with the nearby Westgate Mall in Fairview Park and the Midway Mall in Elyria, Great Northern Mall would continue to hold its own for North Olmsted. In 1980, the Biskin Company would form a joint venture with Hexalon Real Estate for ownership of the mall. The 1980s would continue to see expansions and renovations happen at Great Northern. In 1985, the 19-store North Court would be created out of gutted mall space. And in 1987, a 15-store South Court would be built on the southwest corner of the mall. Also around this time, the 2-story food court would be rebranded from the Commons Restaurants to the Food Commons, and would be expanded to have 17 restaurant bays. By this point, the original plaza next to the mall would be expanded, and several mid-level hotels and office facilities would be built near the mall. These changes would continue on throughout the 1990s, when in 1991, Hexalon would acquire full ownership of Great Northern Mall, and they would hire the Edward J. DeBartolo Group for management. And around this time, the mall would receive an extensive renovation. This would result in the removal of many brick planters and fountains, along with the older stone floors and street post lights. In its place is pretty much what you see today, a pretty typical looking 90s mall with a ton of skylights and tile flooring. This renovation would be completed in late 1992, and around the same time, May Company would be converted to Kaufmann's. Also by this point, the former JCPenney Auto Center in the mall parking lot would be converted to a JCPenney furniture gallery. The 1990s would continue to see success for Great Northern Mall, and that success would continue on going into the new millennium, as Great Northern Mall would continue to see more expansions, whilst other malls around it such as Westgate Mall would decline. In 2002, the Westfield Group would acquire Great Northern Mall and would rename the property to Westfield Shoppingtown Great Northern. I know, that name is quite a mouthful to say the least, which is why they dropped the Shoppingtown name in 2005 and just referred to it as Westfield Great Northern. But the early 2000s would see major additions. In 2003, a huge 3-story Dillard store would open up as a 4th anchor to Great Northern, along with another small expansion that would add 15 more inline tenants to the South Court, leading to the new Dillards. And around the same time, a Galleons would be constructed as a 5th anchor to Great Northern Mall on the north end, However, when the store opened in 2005, it would open up as a Dick's Sporting Goods, as Galleons would be acquired by Dick's around this time. And in 2006, Kaufmann's would be rebranded to Macy's during the May and Federated Department Store's buyout. Whilst Great Northern Mall would continue to see success, not much would happen throughout the rest of the 2000s. It wouldn't be until the 2010s when major changes would continue to happen once again. In May 2011, Westfield would announce plans for a new food court to be placed in the northwest corner of Great Northern Mall, near the Dick's Sporting Goods. This new food court would be home to 12 restaurant bays, which would include Subway, Charlie's, Sarku Japan, Chop It Salad Company, and many more. This new food court would open in November 2011, and around the same time, a children's play area would be put in near the Macy's. After the new food court would open, the old food court would be demolished in 2012 to make way for a new 10-screen Regal Cinema with stadium seating. On top of that, a new mall entrance would be built on the southeast corner of the mall, closer to Sears, and 2 new sit-down restaurants would be constructed next to this new mall entrance: the Rail Burger Bar and Mama Fu's Asian House. However, in the middle of construction, Westfield would sell Great Northern Mall along with 7 other properties in September 2013 to Starwood Retail Partners, a subsidiary of Starwood Capital Group, and they would become the new owners of Great Northern Mall. The new Regal Cinema would open in December 2013, and the new restaurants would also open up around this time. These new additions would work out to be pretty successful for the mall, as other tenants throughout the mall would even expand around this time, such as Forever 21. Throughout the 2010s, Great Northern Mall would continue to remain successful, even with newer competition nearby in the form of the outdoor Crocker Park in Westlake about 12 minutes away. However, the late 2010s and early 2020s would see some struggles at Great Northern Mall. In 2019, JCPenney would close their furniture gallery out parcel at Great Northern. However, this would not affect the main store, as JCPenney continues to operate as of the making of this video. However, March 2020 would see Great Northern Mall shut down for a few months due to the COVID lockdown, and when the mall reopened, it would be hit with a major blow, as in May 2020, Sears would announce the closure of their Great Northern Mall location. Liquidation sales would begin in early June, and the store would officially close for the final time on August 16, 2020, as the final full-line Sears in the state of Ohio. And shortly after that, Starwood would sell Great Northern Mall to Pacific Retail Capital Partners, whom are still the current owners of Great Northern Mall as of the making of this video. Despite the loss of Sears, Great Northern Mall would continue to remain as the premier shopping destination for North Olmsted. Even though some tenants would leave the mall, such as H&M in 2021, these vacancies would get filled in pretty quick. However, another major blow would come to Great Northern Mall in December 2022, when Regal Cinema would announce the closure of their Great Northern Mall theater, along with 23 others in the US. And Regal would close for the final time on January 26, 2023. This would be a devastating blow for Great Northern, but the owners were not going to go down without a fight, as in January 2024, it would be announced that Phoenix Theaters would take over the old cinema, and they would completely overhaul and renovate the theater to add new reclining seats, Dolby Atmos spatial audio, and what was quoted as the largest theater screens in Cleveland. Phoenix Theaters would officially open on June 13, 2024 to great success. Shortly after the opening of the theater, it would be announced that Sweets and Geeks would take over the former H&M space, and they would open in October 2024. Also around this time, the former JCPenney Furniture and Auto Center building would be demolished to make way for a Texas Roadhouse, which is currently being constructed as of the recording of this voiceover. However, around this time, many national chains would begin to leave Great Northern Mall. Since taping this footage, Shoe Department, American Eagle, Aeropostale, FYE, Forever 21, and Rainbow have closed, along with a couple others. But management seems to be addressing these vacancies, but focusing more on small businesses. As of today, Great Northern Mall sits at roughly between 75 to 80% occupancy. And whilst I do have some concerns for the future, I do still have faith that the Great Northern Mall will be able to push through these struggles and continue to be the premier shopping destination for North Olmsted. However, we will just have to wait and see as time goes on. So as I stated before, Great Northern is one of my local malls, and although it's not the most aesthetically pleasing mall out there, I actually really like the way this mall looks. Sure, it's not the most interesting and doesn't have all the pizzazz or old school characteristics, and it definitely looked better back in the day. But overall, it's still a very welcoming and inviting mall to be in. It feels very open and airy, and overall, it's just got a good vibe to it. Sure, it's not the most interesting mall out there, but it's still a really nice mall to walk through. And I'm very happy to call this one of my local malls. This is one of my favorite malls to hang out in. Whether it's walking around through the Macy's, grabbing a bite to eat at the Yihi Japan, which replaced the Sarku, watching a movie at the Phoenix Theaters, or even just walking around and just observing the sights and sounds. Something new is always happening here, and I always love hanging out at this mall. I even helped one of my friends shoot a music video in this mall. It's a really nice mall to hang out at. Now, like I said before, Great Northern Mall is in kind of an interesting position. Occupancy is hovering between 75 and 80%, and a lot of national chains have left in the beginning of this year, and that's not good to see. However, mall management has definitely been taking great care of this mall. It's a very clean and welcoming mall to be in, and they've been doing a pretty good job when it comes to filling in vacancies. Sure, small businesses are not everyone's cup of tea, but at the same time, it's a great way to get these small businesses a head start. And honestly, it's one of the things that's keeping a lot of malls in this country going. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, give it 5 years, I don't know what the future will hold for this mall. But seeing that they're gaining a few new restaurants and even a few more tenants as of the making of this video, I don't think Great Northern will be going anywhere anytime soon. But, like I said, we will just have to wait and see. But I'd also like to hear what all of you think the future will hold for the Great Northern Mall, and what are your thoughts on this property? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. Now, as we begin to wind down this full walkthrough, I will include some clips I shot back at the beginning of this year in January and March of 2025 to give you a little bit more of an updated look of this mall. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for watching my video tour of the Great Northern Mall in North Olmsted, Ohio. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like as it greatly helps support the channel. And whilst you're at it, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more mall videos like this to be released to more viewers like you. I have a lot more content coming to the channel very soon with a lot more stuff you're not going to want to miss, so be sure to subscribe for more malls to come your way. I also have an Instagram linked in the description with sneak peeks of future videos coming to the channel. And with that being said, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay awesome, and have a blessed day. I will see you all in my next video.